It is a period of civil war. The spaceships of the rebels, striking swift from base unseen, have gained a victory o'er the cruel galactic empire, now adrift. Amidst the battle, rebel spies prevailed, and stole the plans to a space station vast, whose powerful beams will later be unveiled, and crush a planet. 'Tis the Death Star blast. Pursued by agents sinister and cold, now Princess Leia to her home doth flee, delivering plans and a new hope they hold, of bringing freedom to the galaxy. In time so long ago begins our play, in star-crossed galaxy, far, far away. William Shakespeare's Star Wars is Star Wars done in the style of William Shakespeare, obviously. It was written by a Yale Divinity School graduate named Ian Doescher, and first published in 2013 by Quirk Books, the same publishing company behind Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which makes all of the sense. He's covered both the original trilogy and the prequels, from The Phantom of Menace to The Jedi Doth Return. He doesn't have plans to do The Force Awakens, but you never know. And thankfully, I'm right in that middle spot in the Venn diagram of Star Wars fans and Shakespeare fans, so there are plenty of Easter eggs for both. Like, I got a laugh out of how they handled that pointless CGI Jabba the Hutt scene that they added for A New Hope.
Va solo, he lapa no ya solo.
Now, Mary, 'tis an unexpected scene. His first book, Verily A New Hope, is a greatest hits of Shakespeare references. And Luke has most of them. He picks up the helmet of a stormtrooper and says, "Alas, poor stormtrooper, I knew ye not." Right before he says he used to bullseye womp rats in his T-16 back home, he gives a speech that matches up both Julius Caesar's funeral and the St. Crispin's Day speech. And right before the Millennium Falcon takes off...
What's that flashing?
"What light through yonder flashing censer breaks." But the really fun stuff is just how even the scene filler dialogue is elevated to poetry. "With every moment, love, your flower doth bloom."
Thou art the gardener who brings increase, the tender of my soil who bringeth growth. Within thy love my blossom is at peace, and doth shoot forth upon mine Annie's oath.
"Nay, for thine own beauty art the cause, for thou art both the flower and the sun, which bringeth light, sans hesitance or pause, and makes thee flourish, such that thou doth stun."
If thou art witness only, thou art blind. To love whate'er grows in me sans thy reason.
Not perfect, but a huge improvement over the original.
You're so beautiful.
It's only because I'm so in love.
No, no, it's because I'm so in love with you.
So love has blinded you.
It's very clear that Doescher's having a lot of fun writing in Shakespeare's style. But here's a question. What is Shakespeare's style? Like, what is it about his writing that makes it instantly sound Shakespeare? Yeah. Yeah, dumb question. Stupid, yeah. But, a word about Iambic Pentameter. As you probably recall from high school English, an iamb is a beat that goes da-dum. And Iambic Pentameter is a line that has 5 of those. Da-dum, 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 da-dum. But soft what light through yonder window breaks. There have been various theories about why this style caught on and why Shakespeare used it. Some actors have suggested that it's because the iamb mimics the human heartbeat, and some have pointed out that 10 syllables is enough to fill a human lung. And because of those things, Shakespeare was brilliant because he somehow tapped into this natural meter, and that's why Shakespeare is a genius.
I play Iambic Pentameter. It's not that hard.
Think you so? Have you ever tried?
Of course not.
A quick reminder that Anonymous is soul-shittingly stupid. The problem with this thinking is that blank verse as a style stretches so far beyond Shakespeare, both before and after him. The 10-syllable style had been around since 1561, 3 years before Shakespeare was born, but by the end of the 16th century, it blossomed. All the great Elizabethan playwrights wrote in it, Marlowe, Johnson, and Kidd in Shakespeare's day, and after him the meter would be used by Pope, Shelley, Tennyson, Thomas. And yes, it even shows up outside of poetry. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. And yes, even in pop culture.
Not idly do the leaves of Lorien fall. you found in Marine past break of day, I'll have your head thrown into Slaver's Bay.
But my favorite examples of the meter are just in everyday speech. The Twitter bot Pentametron is programmed to retweet tweets that just happen to form lines of Iambic Pentameter. I'm so excited for tomorrow, guys! Slaps face and curls into a ball and cries. See, English speech is structured for the form. The beat just flows and sounds so natural. It really isn't hard. Not once you start. Oh shit, I think I'm doing it right now. And yes, it even shows up in Star Wars.
I felt a great disturbance in the Force.
Like most American kids who learned Shakespeare in high school, Doescher saw Shakespeare through that set beat of da-dum, 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 da-dum. And so, Verily A New Hope is written so everything, from Chewbacca's grunts to R2's beeps, is recited in Iambic Pentameter. The thing is, Iambic Pentameter is the baseline. What makes Shakespeare fascinating is how he deviates from that baseline. Like, no actor would ever get up on stage and say, "Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears." Shakespeare's genius lay in how he could bend the verse to suit the mood. Look at the verse of an early play like Richard III. His mind is cool, collected, calculating, and every verse tends to make up a complete thought. Was ever woman in this humor wooed? Was ever woman in this humor won? I'll have her, though I will not keep her long. Compare that to a later play like The Winter's Tale. Mad King Leontes' paranoid thoughts are split up in the middle of each line, in a process called Enjambment. Go play, boy, play. Thy mother plays, and I play too, but so disgraced a part, whose issue will hiss me to my grave, contempt and clamor will be my knell. And Doescher uses both. Here's how he writes Emperor Palpatine.
This lightsaber that resteth by my side, thou dost desire it hotly, dost thou not? The hate doth swell within me even now.
And then he starts using Enjambment.
It hath an aura palpable. Take up thy Jedi weapon, use it. I, as thou can see, am quite unarmed. So strike me down with all thy hatred. Let thy anger stir.
See? A third technique, and a common one in Shakespeare, is adding an 11th unstressed syllable, called a weak ending. Famously, Hamlet does this. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. You get the idea. Doescher doesn't do this often, but he does do it deliberately with the character of Chancellor Vallorum. You know, the Terrence Stamp role in The Phantom Menace. Vallorum's character is a weak puppet, and so he gets weak endings.
The Federation's point hath been conceded. Will you, your majesty, confer your motion that we may soon appoint a keen commission which shall investigate your accusations?
A fourth technique Shakespeare used was breaking up the verse by sharing it between different characters. At one point, Lady Macbeth says a full line.
I heard the owl scream and the crickets cry.
And the next line is split between her and Macbeth.
Did not you speak?
When?
Now.
As I descended. And Doescher uses it too. Good men each now shall speak and state his name.
Red 10 doth here stand by.
Red 7 doth stand by.
Red 3 doth here stand by.
Red 6 doth here stand by.
Red 9 doth here stand by.
And of course, Shakespeare didn't always use Iambic Pentameter. Sometimes, and quite famously, he slipped to trochaic verse. Trochaic verse being the opposite of an iamb. Da-dum. A famous example being the ending of A Midsummer Night's Dream. If we shadows have offended, think but this, and all is mended. Doescher pays homage to that speech when he gives R2-D2 the epilogue to The Jedi Doth Return.
If you did not find the sequel satisfying, if unequal our keen play is unto others, do not part in anger, brothers.
Yeah, there's this running gag where R2 beeps and whistles to other characters, but he has full monologues directed to the audience, and it's adorable. And of course, Shakespeare got a lot of mileage out of prose. Some of his later comedies balance the two perfectly, but almost all of his plays contain at least some degree of prose. Doescher saved any instance of prose for The Empire Striketh Back, where he wrote one character entirely in prose, that character being the lowborn Boba Fett. And in other instances, Doescher was known to break from Shakespeare's style for a joke. For example, Shakespeare was known to add a syllable, but he never dropped one. He never wrote a line of 9 syllables. But Doescher does, and he did it for the character of Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, it's a longer tale, you see, but small part being Misa clumsy.
Get it? He's a beat short of a full verse. But arguably Doescher's best technique is the least Shakespearean. He wrote Yoda in haiku.
Nay, size matters not. Look thou at me, I prithee. Judge me by my size? And why you should not. For my ally, 'tis the Force. A powerful ally.
Forgive my impressions. Obviously, it's all extremely tongue-in-cheek. This is a parody series. I mean, there's a bit where he writes the line, "Exit pursued by a wampa." And Doescher himself has said in interviews that he's not a Shakespeare scholar, nor does he view this work as a piece of Shakespeare scholarship. But at the same time, it opens up a lot of questions about how we view Shakespeare aesthetically. When we first encounter him in classrooms, we usually see him as this weird hodgepodge of these and thous and doths and wherefores, and then we might see him as a 10-beat drummer of verse, da-dum, 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 da-dum. And as we dig deeper, we might see him as a deft inventor of vivid metaphors, and then finally, as one of the world's greatest students of the human psyche. And trying to recreate Shakespeare's style? That's a 400-year-old game. Doescher is no Shakespeare, but he's engaging one of the oldest and most respected exercises in English language literature, trying to match him. Over the course of the book series, you can actually see how so many other fans of Shakespeare, myself included, found themselves becoming ever more immersed in his works, understanding his many different styles, to the point where he managed to make that style his own. Or rather, his and George Lucas's.
Remember me, O Luke, remember me, and ever shall the Force remain with thee.
Actually, this looks pretty fun. Can't be that hard, can it? Enter Art Carney. Prithee, Itchy, sit you in this chair. I bring a Life Day gift, a merry dance performed by Diane Carroll. Pass the time while Lumpy watches Jefferson's Starship.